Hey everybody, Captain Lou here with another edition of Tigers Daily in partnership with the Fan Arch Network. Happy Friday, July the 31st, 2026. Welcome to the weekend, the dog days of summer here in Major League Baseball. We are in full swing. August, obviously, right around the corner, and that important date is looming. 3 days away, the trade deadline, Monday, August 3rd at 6 o'clock. The Tigers, of course, front and center in the middle of that trade deadline swirl. All right, everybody, let's take a moment. For those of you that haven't subscribed to Tigers Daily, we invite you to be a part of the family. We talk all things Tigers, the good, the bad, everything in between. The rumors, and again, there's a ton of them right now swirling in Detroit. The games from the night before and what's ahead for the Tigers. We do all of that right here on Tigers Daily. For those of you that have subscribed, I say thank you very much. The response has been tremendous. We have a ton of fun doing it. I'm just a Tigers fan talking to you, Tigers fans front and center. All right, as we mentioned, welcome to the weekend. The big news out of Detroit yesterday, Max Clark, the number one prospect in the Tigers pipeline. He was called up to the parent club. He's going to be with the Tigers as they begin their West Coast trip with 3 games in Sacramento. Yeah, I know. I still got to get used to that. Sacramento, not Oakland. The Athletics, soon to be in Vegas. When, I'm not sure. But anyways, Max Clark gets the call up. What does that mean? Does that mean anything different for the Tigers? Does that mean maybe they're going to be buyers? Do they still think they've got a shot? Well, I'm sure in the back of their mind they've got a shot. They've got about a 22% chance of making the playoffs. I know it's a long shot, but does that change the mentality at all with the Tigers? Are they giving them an opportunity? What's next? Now, his roster spot or the spot on the parent club, what's going to happen? We've got till tonight to find out. Is Matt Vierling going to go on the IL? He came up limping, of course, trying to get a triple in that game the other day against Baltimore. So we'll keep an eye on that. Now, if you're worried about his service time, that was an excuse earlier in the year that a lot of people were saying was a reason, not maybe an excuse, but a reason why he wasn't called up. But that's not going to be a factor. You've got to have 172 days. And obviously, this late in the year, being called up in late July, he's not going to lose a year's service time. That's always kind of a reason why teams don't call up their rookies, losing a year of control, team control. Now, speaking of being a rookie, if he stays with the Tigers in Detroit for the rest of the year, he will lose his rookie status. That's more like for awards and things like that. So I don't think that's as huge of a concern for him. At least I hope not anyways. I mean, he's not going to be eligible for the Rookie of the Year if he goes on some Herculean role right out of the chute in Detroit. But they're going to see what he has. Now, if he gets sent back down in the next week or so, then yeah, he would retain his rookie status. But something tells me I think he's going to be with the parent club at least through the end of the year unless it just doesn't click for him. Now, we all know he had all this hoopla that came with himself and Kevin McGonigal. Now, I had a chance to watch both of them when they were at West Michigan, when they took on the Lugnuts in Lansing, just down the road from my house. And when they played there last year, they were like men playing with boys. Well, this is going to be a different animal. And with Clark, he started out a little slow. He had the swagger with Detroit, in spring training. But towards the start of his rookie year in Toledo, not his rookie year, but his year in Toledo, he struggled. But he's been on fire as of late. So we'll see what Max Clark brings to the Tigers now. And we'll see if this, and again, the conjecture's already out there. Does that change the mentality? Has it changed? Did they have this planned all along? These are the questions that only Scott Harris and A.J. Hinch knows. And, of course, they're not going to show their cards, if you will. So we'll keep an eye on that. Now, we talked about it. With the trade deadline coming, the first trade has been made. Now, this wasn't one that we expected. Jake Rogers. Now, we know that he was designated for assignment on Tuesday. Well, he cleared waivers. Nobody picked him up. So yesterday he was dealt to the Baltimore Orioles for a minor league pitcher. Zane Barnhart, a local kid, played his college ball down the road at Hillsdale. He's a guy that averages a little over a strikeout an inning in minor league pitching. He's going to be sent to Double-A Erie with the Seawolves. I don't know if that means he's going to be called up at any point this year. Not sure. But Jake Rogers definitely now out of the Tigers organization. Ironically enough, he was the last trade chip that was here with the Tigers in that trade with Verlander back in 2017 when Justin Verlander got traded when the Tigers had their fire sale 9 years ago. So we wish nothing but the best for Jake Rogers. I know Baltimore's got some injury issues at catcher, so he's going to be with the parent ball club over in Baltimore. We wish him good luck. They take on Philadelphia this weekend. So that's the first trade here at the deadline or right around the deadline. Obviously, the next question, what's next? Skubal's on everybody's list. He's on everybody's mind. I get it. But who else really is realistically having a chance to be traded or maybe picked up for the Tigers? Are they going to do both? Are they going to be buyers? Are they going to be sellers? This is the question I know we've been asking all week, all month since we started this. Since episode 1 here to episode 30. 2 names to keep an eye on, maybe 3. Obviously, Casey Mize has gained a little bit of traction as a potential trade chip. Now, Skubal's on the minds of everybody. But Casey Mize, and I'm starting to hear some trade swirling rumors, or rumors swirling, however you want to call it, about maybe Gleyber Torres getting traded out this weekend. Who knows? Now, I think whatever happens, especially with Skubal, probably won't happen until at least Sunday or Monday. But again, the trade rumors are out there. Are the Tigers going to be buyers? Are they going to be sellers? Hard to say. Are they going to get rid of some of their prospects to maybe go after a reliever? We all know what the bullpen looks like with the Tigers. It's horrible. It's like lighting a torch to a gas can right now. And you just have no confidence. I don't know about you, but I don't. So many possibilities out there. And who knows? Maybe they all stand pat. Maybe Harris doesn't get what he wants for Skubal. You watch that interview with Skubal on Wednesday night after the game when he held court in the locker room. I got to give credit to Skubal. He stood there and he answered every question. And he's done that for the 100th time it seems like, right? Well, he stood there and took all the questions. And you could kind of tell by the tone of his voice and by the way he was answering them, especially towards the end. I think he's resigned to the fact that he's going to be traded. Now, the rumors are out there as well that he wants to go to L.A. That's his top destination. Now, if you're young, I could see why. But I got to tell you, I think it's going to be a bidding war. Now, Detroit's got to get something in return that I think for Skubal that can start right away. And I think they can do that. So, I know Sheehan's been mentioned for the Dodgers. I know Henderson for the Brewers, a starting pitcher that can step in the rotation. Well, we're going to keep an eye on that. But I'll tell you what, there is nobody with more pressure in the sporting world right now in the city of Detroit and in recent memory than Scott Harris. I don't feel sorry for him, but you got to wonder what's going through his head right now. If he's getting any sleep or anything, is what should he get in return for Skubal? Should he trade him? What about the other guys? Should he go out and try to get a reliever? So many questions. And again, I want to put this out there. I want the Tigers to win. I don't want them to trade Skubal. I don't want them to trade Mize. I want them in a perfect world. I would love to have them keep them, make the run. But the realist in me is saying they're going to trade him. And if they're going to trade him, you got to get the best possible return. I know prospects are a flash in the pan. A good percentage of them don't make it to the major leagues. But you can't let them walk away for nothing at the end of the year. And again, the realist in me, can the Tigers realistically make the playoffs? So many questions. I know we talk about it ad nauseum with the trade wins going with Detroit. So I don't know. So right now, stay tuned. Who knows what's going to happen in the next 72 hours. But the Tigers start their West Coast swing in Sacramento. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. Well, here's another thing that we like to do here on Tigers Daily. We like to talk about the numbers. And what we're going to do is we're going to go over the standings for the Tigers, and we're going to what it's going to take for the Tigers. But I looked at something here yesterday when I was looking at stats and everything. And here's something, we've talked about it throughout the year. Now, I've been watching the Tigers. I've been watching Major League Baseball since 1971. And I know there's some folks here in our Tigers Daily family that have been watching it longer than I have. But I don't know if you've kept an eye on the statistics, especially batting average. This one jumped out at me. Right now in the American League, there's only 2 players that are hitting over 300 that are eligible to win the batting title. Yordan Alvarez from Houston and Yandy Diaz from Tampa Bay. The rest are under 300. The next closest to getting to 300 is 294. And that's Ernie Clement from Toronto and Josh Young from Texas. And then the next one after that is 290. So Yandy Diaz and Yordan Alvarez are the only 2 players that are hitting over 300 in the American League. And I think there's 4 or 5 in the National League. So 7 players in Major League Baseball are averaging 300 or more. Boy, the times have changed, haven't they? Yordan Alvarez right now is got a very good stranglehold on potentially getting the Triple Crown in the American League. He's got 35 home runs. He's got 80 RBIs. The closest to him in the RBI chase is at 67, I believe, and that's Wilson Contreras from Boston. And Junior Caminero from Tampa Bay is at 29 home runs. Ben Rice is at 31. Ben Rice has 73 RBIs. So Yordan Alvarez is looking pretty good right now for the Triple Crown in the American League. The first one to do it since Miguel Cabrera back for the Tigers over a decade ago. So that jumped out to me yesterday when I was reading these stats. You know, what I like to do, I'm a stats geek. What can I say? And, you know, I was looking at these numbers and I'm thinking, how? How has it gotten that bad? I know analytics have changed. You know, the long ball is the way to go. We don't situation hit like we used to in Major League Baseball. Small ball, for the most part, is a thing of the past. We don't teach our hitters to hit the opposite way anymore. It's not like they used to. So it's just, I see these stats and I think, wow, has baseball changed? And I'm not saying necessarily for the worst all the time, but I look at that and I think to myself, if you would have told me 20 or 30 years ago that the batting champion would only have to worry about one other person to be hitting over 300 and 321's leading the American League and the next person is at 303. Yandy Diaz, if he gets cold over the weekend, he'll be under 300. And that'll leave one person over 300 with a batting average, and that's leading the American League. So just a crazy stat. That's crazy stat number 1, if you will. So let's go through Major League Baseball standings right now. The the Tampa Bay Rays still on top in the American League. They've now got a 3.5 game lead over the Yankees at 64-44. They've got the best record in the American League. The Boston Red Sox, they've been hot. They're closing in on the Yankees. Now they're only 3.5 games behind the Yankees, 7 out in first place in the American League East. In the Central, the White Sox, they have a 2-game lead over the Guardians, but watch out for the Twins. They're only 3 games back. Did you see what they did yesterday? They did to the Royals what Detroit couldn't do last weekend. They got a walk-off win against the Royals. They were down 3-0. Bottom of the 9th, 2 outs, bases loaded, and Cody Clemens. Remember him? He was with the Tigers earlier in his career. He got a walk-off grand slam to beat the Royals 4-3. The Twins are playing some great baseball right now. They're back to 500, and they're sitting pretty good in that last wild card spot. They're at 500. Then the Tigers are behind them, 6.5 back. And in the West right now, the Texas Rangers are a game over 500. They've got a half-game lead on the Astros and now 2.5 on the Mariners. In the National League East, the Braves, their lead now up to 7 over the Philadelphia Phillies. The Phillies had a heck of a run to close to within a game and a half after trailing by 10 games, but now they're 6.5 back, 7 back of the Braves. The Marlins and the Nationals are both 9.5 back. The Phillies got swept by the Marlins. The Marlins had lost 12 straight after such a hot start. In the Central Division, the Brewers, Their lead now down to 5.5 over the Cubs. The Cubs trying to make hay, trying to get close to the Brewers. Two teams on the Scooble watch, by the way. The Brewers more so than the Cubs. I think it's more of a long shot for the Cubs, but the Brewers with a 5.5 game lead. Then the Pirates are 13 back. And finally, the Dodgers, their lead over the Diamondbacks is back up to 12 games, and the Padres over 500 at 14 games out. And in the wild card, the all-important wild card standing for the Tigers, they're now 4.5 games out heading into the weekend, heading into tonight's game against the Athletics in Sacramento. The Guardians hold that last wild card spot. They're 2 games over 500. The Twins and the Astros are a game back. The Orioles 2.5 back. The Mariners 3. And then the Tigers 4.5 back. And in the National League, holding that last wild card spot, the Phillies and the Diamondbacks, they're tied for the second and third spot, and the Padres are 2 out. The Cubs hold the first spot. In the American League, the Yankees and the Red Sox hold the top 2 wild card spots. And finally, if you're looking at numbers for the Tigers, right now they're 51 and 58. To get to 85 wins, they'd have to go 34 and 19. 85 and 77 will get the Tigers in the playoffs as a wild card. I'm not going to guarantee that, but I would think if you can get to 85 wins, you're going to get a playoff spot in the American League. Do the Tigers have it in them to go 34 and 19? Now, to get to 83 and 79, which might get you in, it'll be darn close. The Tigers would have to go 11 games over 500 from here on out. They did it before. They went 11 games out from June to the middle of July. So it's possible. Is it probable? That I don't know. I don't have a lot of confidence in them right now, especially what we saw in that homestand. To go 34 and 19, yeah, it's possible. But again, if you look at the schedule real quick, I want to go back and take a quick look at the schedule for the Tigers. Now, we said it was doable, but all of a sudden, with some of the teams getting hot, especially towards the end of August, this is the one. Now, Detroit's got the West Coast swing. They've got the Athletics, they got the Mariners, and then they got the Giants. Then they come home for a homestand, 6 games, 3 against the Guardians, 3 against the White Sox. We talked about that. Then they've got the Pirates. They go to Pittsburgh. Then they've got the Royals for 3. So those are winnable. So let's say Detroit is hovering around 3.5 out in the wild card, whatever. The end of August, they've got 3 against Tampa and 3 against the Dodgers at Comerica Park. Then after that, they start playing the Twins. They've got the Guardians, then the Twins again. They still got 3 with the Blue Jays. They've got 4 with the White Sox. So a lot of the teams now, they're still in the hunt. But they're all kind of lumped together except the Rays and the Dodgers. That's going to be such a not insurmountable. That's going to be a very tough task for the Tigers. But back to what they've got to do. The Tigers are 51 and 58, like we said. They've got to go, if to get to 85 wins, they got to go 34 and 19. I don't know if that's possible with the bullpen Detroit's got right now, or the moves they're going to make, or if they lose Scooble at the trade deadline, who knows? To get to 83 and 79, they got to go 32 and 21. They got to play 11 games over 500. I don't know if that's possible either. They got to get more out of the bullpen, that's for sure. So those are the numbers to keep in mind. If the Tigers want to have a sniff at the playoffs, they got to be 15 games over 500 to get to 85 wins. They got to start now. There's no waiting for tomorrow, that's for sure. All right, finally here today, let's take a look at the rotation for the Tigers as they take on the Athletics in Sacramento. Casey Mize on the hill tonight for the Tigers. And then tomorrow it's going to be Framber Valdez. You know, after that disastrous start against the Cubs, he looked a little bit better in his last start against the Royals. Now he's up against the Athletics on Saturday. And then Keider Montero had his roughest outing really of the year the other day. He gets a chance to redeem himself against the Athletics on Sunday in the finale of the series. Then the Tigers have the day off on Monday, trade deadline Monday, and then they begin that 3-game set with the Mariners on Tuesday. And as of right now, Melton will be on the mound for the Tigers. And then, again, as of right now, Tarik Skubal would take the bump for the Tigers on Wednesday. So, again, that probably won't happen. If you listen to all the conjecture, it looks like Skubal will be traded. So, but as of right now, he's penciled in to be the Wednesday starter for the Tigers against Seattle. All right, let's take a look at some comments here, as we always like to do here on the show. We talk about the trade deadline, obviously. That's the main concept. Malcolm McCaleb, 2638. You don't see the chaos with the Brewers and the Yankees. It seems like there's always chaos with the Tigers. Yep, you're right. Now, anyways, the time to trade is when it's a clear sign of improvement and pitching is needed. I can't say this is good for the Tigers. I think most fans feel the same way. Let's look ahead to a better outcome for the team. Stay with a proven 2-time Cy Young Award winner. He wants to keep Skubal. Chico Sequita. Is that right? Sapolte. I'm sorry. See, wear your glasses, Lou. Worst loss I've ever seen, talking about that Baltimore game on Wednesday. Yeah, that was ugly. How about Virgil Green? He says he hates like everything to lose Glaber and Mize. And he said he thinks we could afford to keep him. Yeah, I think we could too. But right now, that's up to Scott Harris again. He's on the clock. And, again, I wonder what's going through his mind right now. I wonder if he's sleeping at all. That's a crazy thing. Thank you for the kind words from Win-Win 443. Excellent show. I appreciate that. Thank you for taking time out. Jake the Snake 1642. He 100% blames AJ for that loss. Continuing to give Drew Anderson the ball is a major issue. He has proven he's not able to pitch at this level. I got to tell you, I can't argue with that. AJ's got to deal with Anderson. He's got to deal with Drew Summers. I'm not a big fan of either one of them. So some of the blame has to be on Harris as well. That's what he's given A.J. Hinch. I'm not taking A.J. Hinch off the hook by any stretch. But yeah, Summers and Anderson, to me, they haven't proven that they are capable big league pitchers. But as we've been saying, who's in the pipeline right now for the Tigers? I think that's the Tigers' biggest weakness right now in the minor league is pitching. I think they've got a good stockpile of hitters at AA and at AAA that maybe they have to start to turning to. Richard Leclerc. Lou, my feelings on this are that although we still may be in it mathematically, realistically, how deep could the Tigers go with the state of this bullpen? There's only one guy he trusts in the bullpen, and he's not in there anymore. That's Kiter Montero. And and he's not even in the bullpen. A gut punch of a loss on Wednesday. His confidence in Harris, and I think a lot of people echo this, and I kind of am on this side too. His confidence in him is non-existent. And he's afraid we're going to lose in the Skubal trade, and it could be. And he wants to, again, point out our championship drought is 42 years and counting. Yes, it has been. In 313 Michigan, talking about Tarik Skubal. He thought that this was his last game. You could see it touching his heart as he walked off the field. And again, if you watched his presser, with all the reporters in the locker room, it looked like, you could kind of sense a little bit of resignation in his voice. So I don't know. Those are just some of the comments. Again, Bama Scorpio 69, trade Skubal, Mize, Glaber, and Riley. Let's start over from scratch. I don't know if I want to go that far. I would love to keep Riley maybe as part of the corp of the Tigers, but who knows. And finally, we'll go with senior. Professional sports are a business. If this team can win, fantastic. Unless they don't make money, the Marlins under Dombrowski. If they lose but make money, great. If they make money, why spend? I don't know. That's the business side of it. That's for sure. And Alf Lever said, talent is pretty good. They've had streaks the last 2 years that show that, but the collapse in the second half of last year and the terrible start this year could be that Hinch is not the guy to get these players motivated. There might be something to say to that. I'm not the hugest Hinch supporter. I know he's won in the past, and they have gone to the playoffs, and he's going to get some. He's part of the reason for that they have had success, but he's also part of the reason this year while they failed. I know that's kind of being on the fence, but I'm not the hugest A.J. Hinch fan right now, but it's more than him that's causing this collapse. Obviously, some of that's got to lie on the players. All right, and finally, we'll go one more. Robert Byington, 77-15. Lou, why take out the best player in baseball in a game you had to win? Hinch has to go. Detroit is 26th in baseball in runners in scoring position, and they have had some of the most undisciplined hitters in situations where you need to produce outs, or when you need productive outs. I beg your pardon. Green is one of the worst with runners in scoring position. In the last game against Kansas City in a 7-pitch at-bat, he swung out on 3 pitches, including a 3-2 pitch, and wasn't even close to the strike zone. I can't argue with you. I can't argue with you there, Robert. If there's one person that's undisciplined, that's Riley Green. Now, it kind of gives you a reminder of what Javi Baez used to be, how undisciplined he was at the plate. You know, again, this is he's not the only one, Riley Green, going up there hacking. It seems like, here's the thing, one more thing on that point I want to bring up, and it is a good point. Is it me, or is it that when they get towards the later innings, they lose that plate discipline and they just swing for the fences, trying to get it all back in one swing? Who is that on? Is that on coaching? I noticed, and I'm glad that I read that comment, and I thank you for that, because it brought up something I was going to talk about. Totally forgot about it. Is how their plate discipline seems to go away in the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning, and maybe that's got something to do why they've blown 18 games. They've lost 18 games where they're leading in the 7th inning. So let's use that as part of our questions I want to pose on you guys. The first one is there a signal in your mind that was sent with Max Clark being called up yesterday, the number 1 prospect in the pipeline? Does that make a difference to you at all with what's going to happen with the Tigers the rest of the way? And number 2, is it just me, or do the Tigers' plate discipline seem to go away in the last 3 innings? Do they go up there and just swing wildly, try to win it all at once? Those are the questions I want to ask you. And we'll kind of call on that, and we'll report on that tomorrow. So, all right, that's going to do it. I know we got a little long-winded towards the end, but I want to get the comments in, as we always do here on Tigers Daily. All right, that's going to do it here for this edition of Tigers Daily. Appreciate everybody that's taken time out to be with us today. And again, for those of you joining in, we would love to have you subscribe to our channel, which is Tigers Daily, partnered with fanarch.com. Until tomorrow, Captain Lou saying, keep your heads up. Keep your sticks down, keep your feet moving, and as always, keep your minds open. So long.